A businessman intended to fire one of his best employees, only to see her later wearing his late wife's necklace. When he asks her about it, the answer leaves everyone speechless. On that Monday morning, Alexander Reynolds' office carried an air of silent tension. The 45-year-old CEO of Reynolds Enterprises, with silver streaks beginning to show in his hair and intense brown eyes, gazed out over the New York skyline, his mind wrapped around the task ahead. The company restructuring was essential, but knowing that didn't make the decisions any easier. A gentle knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called, turning to face his visitor. Victoria Kimmel, his dedicated assistant, stepped in holding a folder. "Mr. Reynolds, here's the file you requested. Miss Janice Garcia is waiting outside for your meeting," she said, handing him the folder. "Thank you, Victoria. Please have her come in after 5 minutes." Taking the folder, Alexander felt a twinge of guilt. For 3 years, Janice Garcia had been a standout member of the marketing team, known for her top-notch work. But with the merger looming, some cuts were simply unavoidable. Exactly 5 minutes later, the door opened again. Janice stepped in, her posture straight and gaze steady. She was a young woman, around 28, with dark brown hair and sharp green eyes that radiated intelligence. "Good morning, Mr. Reynolds," she greeted, her voice steady despite the tension evident in her stance. "Good morning, Miss Garcia. Please have a seat," Alexander replied, gesturing to the chair in front of him. As she sat down, her hands resting quietly in her lap, Alexander's eyes were drawn to a delicate necklace she wore. It was simple, a small crescent moon pendant with a blue stone in the center. For a moment, everything else seemed to fade. "That necklace," he murmured, his gaze fixed on it. Janice instinctively touched the pendant. "Excuse me?" Alexander blinked, gathering himself. "I'm sorry, it just looked familiar. Could I ask where you got that?" Alexander's voice wavered slightly, catching Janice off guard. She glanced down, touching the necklace hanging around her neck. "Oh, this. It was a gift from my adoptive mom. She gave it to me when I turned 18, telling me it had belonged to my biological mother." Alexander's pulse quickened as he took in her words. That necklace. It was identical to the one his late wife, Christine, had always worn. The very one that had inexplicably vanished over 2 decades ago, shortly before they met. "Mr. Reynolds, are you all right?" Janice's voice held a note of concern as she noticed his change in expression. Alexander cleared his throat, struggling to steady himself. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry, Miss Garcia. Let's continue." Summoning all his focus, Alexander began outlining the company's financial challenges and the upcoming layoffs. Though his mind remained elsewhere, trying to make sense of what Janice had just revealed. She listened closely, her face shifting from confusion to concern, and eventually to quiet acceptance. When he finished, she nodded. "I understand, Mr. Reynolds. I'm grateful for my time here. When would be my last day?" He looked at her, momentarily speechless. I'll need to go over a few things first. Let's meet again in a couple of days, and in the meantime, please continue with your current tasks." Janice's brows lifted in surprise, but she simply nodded and rose to leave. As she did, he stopped her. "Miss Garcia, one more question if I may. Do you know anything else about your birth mother?" She looked at him surprised. "Not really. She gave me up as a newborn. My adoptive mum never liked talking about it. Why do you ask?" Alexander managed a strained smile. "Just curious." "Thank you, Miss Garcia." Once she left, he sank into his chair, his mind racing with questions he could barely grasp. The necklace, Janice's age, the dates, everything felt like pieces of a puzzle he hadn't realized was missing. His hands shook as he reached into his desk drawer, pulling out an old photograph. In it, Christine's warm smile beamed at the camera, her crescent moon necklace gleaming around her neck. Gently, Alexander brushed his fingers across the photo, his eyes welling up. "Oh, Christine," he whispered, "what secrets did you leave behind?" At that moment, Alexander Reynolds made a choice. Not only would he keep Janice Garcia on staff, but he'd also dedicate himself to uncovering the story behind that necklace and any possible link between Janice and his late wife. As the afternoon sun poured over New York City, a new chapter was set to unfold for Alexander and Janice, one that would alter their lives forever. In the days that followed, Alexander Reynolds was swept up in a storm of emotions. As CEO, he had to maintain his steady, composed front, making difficult choices amid a company restructuring. Yet, his thoughts kept circling back to the enigma of Janice Garcia and the possibility she might be tied to Christine's past. One evening, after a marathon of meetings, Alexander found himself outside the building where Andrea Evans, Christine's closest friend and confidant, lived. Heart pounding, he pressed the doorbell. Andrea, a woman in her 50s with silver hair and gentle eyes, greeted him with surprise that turned quickly into warmth. "Alexander, what a lovely surprise. Please come in." Once settled in the cozy living room with a steaming mug of coffee, Alexander wasted no time. "Andrea, I need to ask you something about Christine. It's important." Andrea's smile faded, her expression shifting to one of cautious curiosity. "Of course, Alexander. What's on your mind?" He took a steadying breath. "Did Christine have a daughter before we met?" The silence that followed was so thick it felt tangible. Andrea's face turned pale as she placed her coffee cup carefully on the table, her hands slightly unsteady. How did you find out?" she murmured. The confirmation struck Alexander like a blow. Despite his hunches, he'd secretly wished to be wrong. "The necklace," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "I saw it on a young woman working at my company, Janice Garcia. She told me it belonged to her mother." Andrea closed her eyes, as if the weight of a long-buried truth had finally reached her. "Oh, Christine," she whispered, "forgive me." "Please, Andrea," Alexander implored, "I need to know the whole story." Andrea exhaled deeply and began. "It was nearly 30 years ago. Christine had just turned 18 when she fell head over heels for a young musician named Logan. Their love was intense but short-lived. Right around the time Logan got a chance to go on tour with his band, Christine found out she was pregnant. Alexander, shocked, took it all in while Andrea continued. Christine was terrified. Her parents were extremely traditional, and she dreaded their reaction. Plus, she wasn't ready to be a mum. After a lot of agonizing, she decided to put the baby up for adoption. "And you helped her?" Alexander asked, piecing it together. Andrea nodded. "I knew a couple who couldn't have kids. They were good-hearted people, and Christine trusted me to manage everything. It wasn't easy, but she believed it was the best choice for the baby." "The necklace," Alexander started, catching a memory. "It was her grandmother's," Andrea explained. "Christine wanted her daughter to have something to connect her to her heritage, even if she couldn't raise her. She asked me to give it to the adoptive parents, hoping they'd eventually pass it on to her daughter." Alexander stood up and walked to the window, emotions swirling inside, shock, confusion, sadness, and an odd sense of awe. "Why didn't Christine ever tell me?" he asked, his voice breaking. Andrea placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "She wanted to, Alexander, so many times. But she was scared. Scared of your reaction, scared to dredge up old memories. And then, when she got sick..." Alexander's mind drifted to Christine's final months, battling cancer. "She didn't want to leave me with that weight," he concluded. "Exactly," Andrea nodded. "But now that you know, what are you going to do?" A new resolve sparked in Alexander's eyes as he turned to her. "I need to learn more about Janice. I need certainty." "Be careful, Alexander," Andrea warned gently. "This truth could affect a lot of lives, not just yours and Janice's, but her adoptive family's too." Alexander nodded, realizing the delicacy of the journey ahead. "I understand, Andrea, but I can't just ignore it. If Janice really is Christine's daughter, I need to find out. I owe that to Christine and to myself." Meanwhile, across town, Janice Garcia stepped into her modest apartment, drained after yet another long day at work. The uncertainty about her role at the company weighed heavily on her mind, but there was something else that lingered. A memory of Mr. Reynolds's unusual reaction when he noticed her necklace. Sitting on her bed, she clutched the pendant, gazing at it thoughtfully. Somehow, it felt like more than a simple piece of jewelry. It was a rare link to the mother she had never known. And lately, that connection felt stronger than ever. "Who are you really, Mum?" Janice murmured into the silence. "And why does it feel like I'm about to find out?" Unbeknownst to her, Alexander Reynolds was simultaneously making choices that would alter both their lives. A series of events was unfolding that would soon unearth long-hidden truths and build bonds neither could have anticipated. As evening settled over New York City, both Alexander and Janice, unaware of each other's path, were preparing for an emotional journey that would lead them to confront painful revelations, navigate unforeseen challenges, and perhaps redefine the meaning of family. The next morning, New York greeted them with gray skies and rain, almost as if the city's mood mirrored the emotional storm within Alexander Reynolds. Sitting in his office, his eyes followed a single raindrop sliding down the window as he replayed his recent conversation with Andrea in his mind. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he said, straightening up in his chair. Janice Garcia entered, holding a folder and wearing an expression tinged with concern. "Good morning, Mr. Reynolds. I've brought the report you requested on the new marketing campaign." Alexander studied her with a fresh perspective, searching her face for any trace of Christine. How had he missed it before? That slight tilt of her head, the determined spark in her green eyes. It all reminded him of Christine. "Thank you, Janice," he said, taking the folder. Then, almost without thinking, he added, "Do you have a moment? There's something I'd like to discuss." Janice nodded, intrigued. "Of course, sir. Please, take a seat." Alexander gestured to the chair across from him. "First off, I want you to know your job here is secure. The restructuring won't affect your department." Janice's face softened with relief. "Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. I really appreciate this opportunity." Alexander nodded, bracing himself for what he was about to reveal. "Janice, there's something else I'd like to talk about. Something a bit more personal." Curious, she tilted her head. "Personal, sir?" "Yes," Alexander continued. "It's about your necklace, the one you said was from your biological mother." Janice's fingers instinctively found the pendant around her neck. "What about it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alexander took a deep breath. "I think I might know more about its origins, and possibly about your birth mother." Janice's eyes widened, a mixture of surprise and hope flashing across her face. "How could that be? Did you know her?" she asked, her voice a blend of anticipation and disbelief. "It's a complicated story, Janice," Alexander replied, his tone gentle. "And I don't have all the details yet. But if you're open to it, I'd like us to try and uncover the truth together." Janice paused, absorbing his words. When she spoke, her voice wavered slightly. "My adoptive parents have been incredible to me, but I've always felt there was a part of me missing. If you can help me understand that part, Mr. Reynolds, I'd be forever grateful. Alexander felt a tightness in his chest. Janice, if my suspicions are right, this could affect our lives in ways we can't even begin to predict. Are you certain you want to move forward with this? Janice's face grew determined. I'm sure. I need to know the truth, whatever it is. Alexander gave a small smile. In that case, how about we start with dinner tonight? We have a lot to discuss. Meanwhile, at a refined restaurant across town, Andrea Evans was meeting with Aaron Garcia, Janice's adoptive father. Aaron, a man in his early 60s with graying hair and gentle eyes, listened with increasing worry as Andrea spoke. Are you absolutely sure about this, Andrea? He asked, his voice thick with emotion. Andrea nodded solemnly. Alexander is already connecting the dots, Aaron, and knowing Janice, she won't be far behind. We should be ready. Aaron rubbed his hand over his face, visibly shaken. Heather and I knew this day might come, but now that it's here, how do we even tell her? With love and honesty, Andrea replied, placing a reassuring hand over his. Remember, Janice loves you. Nothing can change that, Aaron whispered, his voice heavy. But what if she wants to know her birth family? What if one day she decides we're not enough anymore? His voice cracked slightly. Aaron, Andrea responded, her tone firm. You are her parents. You're the ones who raised her and loved her unconditionally all this time. That's unbreakable. But Janice has a right to understand where she came from. And who knows, she added softly, this might just bring more love into her life. Not take any away. Aaron sighed, slowly nodding as he processed her words. You're right, as always. It's just hard for me. I know, Andrea said gently, but I'll be right here, with you, every step of the way. I owe that to Christine, and to you, for the incredible love you've given Janice all these years. As Andrea and Aaron shared their hopes and concerns for what lay ahead, Janice and Alexander sat in a cozy Italian restaurant, each ready to dive into a shared yet unknown past. The air between them was thick with anticipation. Janice toyed nervously with her necklace, glancing up as Alexander gathered his thoughts. After a brief pause, he said, Janice, I want you to know that whatever happens, your role in the company is unaffected by this. That's not why we're here. Janice nodded, relieved. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Honestly, though, my job isn't what I'm focused on right now. I just want to know what you know about my mother. Alexander took a deep breath and began, recounting his memories of Christine. He spoke of how they had met, fallen in love, and built a life together, cut tragically short. And finally, with emotion in his voice, he told her about the necklace, about Andrea's revelation. As he finished, silence settled over the table. Finally, Janice broke it, her voice barely more than a whisper. So, you think Christine might be my biological mother? Alexander nodded, his eyes filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Yes, Janice, there's a real chance. But we need to be certain. We can run some tests, speak to a few people. And if it's true? Janice asked, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. What does that mean for us? Alexander asked, his gaze locking with hers, sensing a bond that felt more profound than just boss and employee. It was deeper than even the idea of becoming stepfather and stepdaughter. I'm not sure, Janice. But if it's real, it means we're not alone anymore. We're a family. Maybe one neither of us ever expected. Janice gave a small nod, tears now streaming down her face. I always wondered about my roots and who my birth parents were. But now that I might actually find out, I'm terrified. Reaching across the table, Alexander gently took Janice's hand, a gesture meant to reassure her. We're in this together, Janice. Whatever comes our way, we'll face it side by side. As the evening wore on, the two continued their conversation, sharing pieces of their lives, fears, and hopes. Through their openness, a new bond began to take shape, one built on empathy and the promise of a shared future, no matter what truth awaited them. Meanwhile, at that very moment, Aaron Garcia was returning home, preparing for a tough discussion with his wife Heather about the future of the daughter they had loved and raised for almost 3 decades. Fate had already set a chain of events in motion, soon to disrupt several families, exposing secrets long buried and testing the strength of love and loyalty. In the days following that dinner, Janice and Alexander were swept into a storm of emotions and revelations. They had agreed to take a DNA test to confirm their suspicions, but the waiting felt interminable. As they waited for results, life at the office went on, though everything seemed changed. In the workplace, Janice and Alexander kept up their professionalism, but sharp-eyed employees noticed the exchanged looks and quiet talks. Rumors started buzzing, with some speculating about a hidden romance, while others guessed at possible changes in the company's future. Catherine, Alexander's assistant, observed it all with a blend of curiosity and worry. One afternoon, she couldn't contain her concern any longer and stepped into her boss's office. "Mr. Reynolds," she began, closing the door. "I hope you don't mind me saying this, but is everything okay? You haven't been yourself." Alexander considered how much to disclose, realizing he might need a confidant. "Catherine, what I'm about to share has to stay between us. It's personal, and it's delicate." Meanwhile, tension simmered at the Garcia home. Aaron had just told Heather the news. Janice's biological family might have surfaced. Heather, a small woman with soft chestnut hair and kind eyes, took in the news with a blend of worry and quiet acceptance. "We always knew this day might come," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But God, I'm just not ready to lose her." Aaron wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. "John, we won't lose her, love," he reassured her. "Janice loves us. We're her family. We've raised her and been there for every important moment in her life." "But what if she wants to go with them?" Heather's voice cracked and tears started streaming down her face. "What if she decides we're not enough for her anymore?" Aaron squeezed her hand and replied, though his voice also hinted at the worry he was trying to hide. "Then we'll just have to trust that the love we've given her all these years will keep her close." That evening, when Janice came home, she found her parents waiting for her in the living room, looking solemn. Her heart skipped a beat. She could sense that something significant was about to unfold. "Janice, honey, could you sit down?" Heather said, patting the spot beside her on the couch. "We need to talk to you about something important." Janice took a seat, her mind racing. Did they know about her meeting with Alexander? Did they have some idea about her search? Aaron gently took her hand. "Janice, we've always been open with you about your adoption, that we chose you as our daughter, and that our love for you will never change. But we've recently learned something about your biological family." Janice felt a rush of emotions, almost as if the breath had been knocked out of her. She hadn't expected her parents to know anything. "What do you know?" she managed to ask, her voice shaky. Heather, her voice wavering, continued, "Your biological mother. Her name was Christine, and it appears you have someone who was close to her, a stepfather, in a way, who has recently learned of your existence." Janice shut her eyes, trying to absorb this news. Her parents knew. They knew about Christine. They knew about Alexander. But how? "Andrea Evans," Aaron explained, "the woman who helped with your adoption, reached out to us a few days ago. The room was silent. Janice looked back and forth at her parents, recognizing both the worry and love reflected in their eyes. In a sudden moment of clarity, she understood how hard it must have been for them to carry this secret and to live with the fear of losing her. "Mum, Dad," she whispered, her voice quivering. "You are my parents. Nothing will ever change that. I love you. And I always will." Heather and Aaron wrapped her in a tight embrace, all three of them shedding tears, finally releasing years of pent-up tension and hidden truths. When they pulled apart, Janice took a steadying breath, realizing it was time to share her own secret. "There's something I need to tell you," she began. "I've been in contact with Alexander Reynolds, Christine's husband. Actually, he's my boss at Reynolds Enterprises." The shock on her parents' faces was clear. "Your boss?" Heather gasped. "Janice, why didn't you mention this before?" "Because I'm still coming to terms with it," Janice admitted. "Everything happened so quickly. The necklace, Alexander's suspicions. Realizing Christine might have been my mother. It's like my life turned into a soap opera overnight." Aaron let out a gentle laugh. "Life can be stranger than fiction sometimes, can't it?" Janice smiled, thankful for the small break in tension. Then, turning serious again, she added, "Alexander and we're going to take a DNA test to find out for sure." Heather took her hand, her grip warm and reassuring. "Are you absolutely sure, sweetheart? Once you know, there's no going back." Janice met her parents' eyes, feeling both the deep love she held for them and the pull of her own curiosity. "Yes, I need to know. But no matter what, you'll always be my parents, my family." Meanwhile, across town in his upscale penthouse, Alexander sat alone, flipping through an old photo album. Smiling pictures of Christine stared back at him, bringing back memories of happier days. Yet each image now stirred up fresh questions. How long had she hidden this secret? Would she ever have told him? The buzzing of his phone interrupted his thoughts. It was a message from Janice. "I talked to my parents. They know everything. Can we meet tomorrow?" Alexander responded swiftly. "Of course, my office after work." As he got ready for bed, Alexander couldn't shake a strange blend of nervousness and anticipation. Tomorrow could be the day that pieces finally started to fall into place. Yet none of them knew that, at that same moment, Andrea Evans was receiving a call that would alter everything. A voice from her past. A voice she never expected to hear again. "Andrea, it's Logan Peterson. I'm back in New York, and I need to talk to you about Christine and our daughter." Andrea's heart skipped a beat. Just when she thought things couldn't get any more complicated, Janice's biological father had resurfaced. The storm brewing now was bound to be more intense than anyone could have anticipated. The next morning, a gloomy sky stretched over New York City, mirroring the tension Andrea felt building. She hadn't been able to sleep, Logan's words still echoing in her mind like an unwanted refrain from the past. Her hands shook slightly as she picked up the phone and dialed Alexander's number. When he answered, his voice sounded worn, as if he hadn't had much rest either. "Alexander, we need to talk," she said abruptly. "What's going on, Andrea?" Alexander asked, the worry in his voice clear. "Logan is back," she whispered, barely audible. "Logan Peterson, Janice's biological father." On the other end of the line, Alexander was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Finally he spoke, his tone a mix of shock and uncertainty. "How? Why now?" "I don't know," she replied, "but he wants to talk about Christine and Janice. Alexander, this could change everything." Meanwhile, at the Reynolds Enterprises offices, Janice had arrived early, her mind swirling with emotions after the conversation with her parents the previous night. As she stepped into the building, she noticed employees looking at her with a mix of curiosity respect, and a hint of caution. Catherine, Alexander's assistant, stopped her in the hallway with a tight smile. "Good morning, Janice. Mr. Reynolds wants to see you in his office right away." Janice nodded, her heart pounding. Had the DNA results already come in? She noticed Victoria watching her with an uneasy look as she made her way to Alexander's office. Once inside, she was surprised to see not only Alexander, but also Andrea Evans. The room was thick with tension. "Janice, please have a seat," Alexander said gravely. "There's something we need to discuss." She took her seat, bracing herself. Her eyes darted between Alexander and Andrea, searching for answers. "Is something wrong? Is it the test results?" Andrea shook her head gently. "No, Janice. It's about your biological father." The words hung in the air, freezing Janice in place. "My biological father?" she echoed. Alexander took a steady breath, his voice gentle but clear. "His name is Logan Peterson. He's a musician and he's just come back to New York." Janice's eyes widened as she tried to absorb this revelation. "Does he know about me? Does he want to meet me?" Andrea gave a small nod. "Yes, it seems so." Janice's heart raced. "There's more, though," Andrea continued. "Logan only found out about you recently. Christine, she never told him she was expecting you." Tears blurred Janice's vision as questions filled her mind. Why? Why would they keep me a secret? Why all the lies? Alexander stepped forward, resting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Christine was very young, Janice. She was scared and thought she was doing what was best for you. Now, Logan wants to have a chance to know you." Feeling overwhelmed, Janice stood up, her emotions making the room feel stifling. "This is all just too much. First, I find out my boss might be my stepfather, then my adoptive parents confess they knew things they never shared, and now my biological father wants to be a part of my life. How am I supposed to manage all of this?" Andrea moved closer, regret and understanding in her gaze. "I'm so sorry, Janice. I never wanted things to get this tangled. I just wanted to protect everyone." Janice looked at her with a mix of frustration and hurt. "Protect us by hiding the truth?" "Janice," Alexander's steady voice broke through, calm and reassuring. "I know this feels like a lot, but you're not alone. We're all here for you. Your adoptive parents, Andrea and me. And if you're open to it, Logan as well." Alexander's words softened the chaos in Janice's mind, and she sank back into her chair, tears streaming down her cheeks. I don't know what to do. I don't even know who I am anymore." Alexander kneeled beside her, taking her hands gently. "You're Janice, smart, strong, and kind. You're the daughter Aaron and Heather Garcia raised with love. I'm lost. I don't even recognize myself anymore." Kneeling down next to her, Alexander gently held her hands. "You're Janice, smart, strong, and compassionate. You're the daughter that Aaron and Heather Garcia lovingly raised. I get it, and I promise. I'll follow your lead. I just want a chance to set things right this time." As they spoke, Janice, Alexander, and Andrea sat together in the office, working on a plan to tackle the stormy challenges ahead. What none of them knew was that, soon enough, all the tangled connections, hidden truths, and unresolved issues would collide, forcing each of them to confront difficult realities and make life-changing choices. The coming storm was bound to be fierce, but it also held the potential to clear the air, heal old wounds, and maybe, just maybe, create deeper family bonds. The days that followed were filled with emotional highs and lows for everyone involved. Janice felt as though she were balancing on a tightrope, trying to juggle her family, her job, and the shocking discoveries about her past. One afternoon, while focused on an important report, a message from Alexander appeared. "The DNA results are here. Can you meet me in my office in 15 minutes? Janice's heart skipped a beat. This was the moment of truth. With shaking hands, she saved her work and headed to Alexander's office. Entering the room, she found not only Alexander but also Andrea. To her surprise, her adoptive parents, Aaron and Heatherly, were there as well. "Janice, sweetheart," Heatherly said, stepping forward to hug her. "We wanted to be here with you for this." Looking around, Janice felt both supported and tense, aware of the emotions in the room. "Thank you," she murmured. "So, what do the results say?" Alexander picked up an envelope from the desk and held it out to her. "I think it's best if you open it," he said, softly. With unsteady hands, Janice opened the envelope and read the document inside, her gaze locking on the crucial line. She looked up, her eyes welling with tears. "It's positive," she whispered. "Christine, she's my birth mother?" The silence that filled the room was overwhelming. Alexander stepped closer to her, his own eyes glistening with emotion. "Janice, I'm at a bit of a loss for words, but if you'll let me, I'd like to be part of your life, not as a replacement for your parents, but as a bridge to Christine and your past." Aaron stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on Janice's shoulder. "Mr. Reynolds, we understand your wish to connect with Janice, but you need to recognize that this is a lot for her to handle. She needs time." Alexander nodded, respecting Aaron's words. "Of course, I understand completely." Janice glanced from her adoptive parents to Alexander, then over to Andrea. "I need a moment," she murmured, before slipping out of the office. Meanwhile, across town in a recording studio, Logan Peterson was struggling to focus on his music. His thoughts kept drifting. Ever since he returned to New York and learned about Janice, he felt torn between his past and an unknown future. His phone buzzed with a message from Andrea. The tests confirmed it. Christine was Janice's mother. She knows now. Give her time. Logan closed his eyes, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. His daughter, the daughter he never knew about, now knew the truth of her mother. But would she want to meet her father? Back at Reynolds Enterprises, Janice had wandered up to the rooftop, needing a quiet space to absorb it all. The city breeze toyed with her hair as she gazed out over the skyline, searching for clarity in the soft afternoon light. "Janice?" Catherine's voice, Alexander's assistant, brought her back to the present. "I didn't mean to intrude, but are you all right?" Janice turned, surprised to see Victoria there. "I don't know," she admitted. "Everything just feels so tangled." Victoria stepped closer, giving her a warm, understanding smile. "I've worked with Mr. Reynolds for a long time. I've never seen him so alive as he has been since finding out about you and Christine. I know it's all very complex, but I truly think he cares deeply for you." Janice nodded slowly. "I care about him too. It's just, I'm scared. Scared of losing who I am, of letting down my parents, of not living up to what Alexander might expect. And now there's this idea of a biological father I didn't even know was out there." Victoria placed a comforting hand on Janice's shoulder. "No one expects you to have all the answers right now. Take a moment to remember that you're not alone in this. You have more support than you realize." Meanwhile, over in Alexander's office, the atmosphere was thick with tension as Aaron and Heather prepared to leave. Before stepping away, Aaron turned to Alexander and said, "Mr. Reynolds," with a steady yet respectful tone, "we understand the connection you feel with Janice because of Christine, but we are her parents. We've been there every step of the way, and we won't allow anyone or anything to hurt her." Alexander nodded, acknowledging their words. "I understand, Mr. Garcia. I have no intention of stepping into your role. I simply want the chance to know Janice and to be a part of her life in a way that respects all of you. I promise to respect her boundaries and yours." Heather, who had remained silent until then, finally spoke. "Mr. Reynolds, Andrea, there's something else we need to share." The surprise was clear on Alexander and Andrea's faces. "What? When did this happen?" Andrea asked in a hushed tone. "A few days ago," Aaron replied. "Logan Peterson reached out to us. He wanted permission to meet Janice. We told him it would ultimately be her choice." Alexander rubbed his forehead, trying to process this unexpected twist. "This makes things even more complicated," he murmured. "We understand," Heather responded. "But Janice deserves the truth. She should be the one to decide. All we ask is for your patience, to give her time to handle all of this." As the conversation unfolded, Janice returned to the office, feeling a bit calmer after her talk with Catherine. She sensed the heavy atmosphere as she entered and looked at each face in the room. "What's going on?" she asked, noting the serious expressions. Aaron approached her, gently taking her hands. "Janice, there's something else you need to know," he began softly. "It's about your biological father." Janice felt her world shift beneath her feet. "My biological father," she echoed, feeling her heart race, as Heather moved closer and wrapped her in a hug. "His name is Logan Peterson," Heather explained. "He's a musician, and he's come back to New York. He wants to meet you." It was all too much. Janice felt the room swirl around her. I need air," she stammered, hurrying out of the office. Alexander instinctively started to go after her, but Andrea held him back. "Give her some space, Alexander." There was a lot for Janice to handle. She wandered through the city streets, moving without direction, desperate to outrun the flood of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. Somehow, her feet carried her to a quiet, little park she remembered from her childhood, a place where she used to play. She took a seat on one of the swings, tears streaming down her face. That's when she noticed a man on a nearby bench, quietly strumming a guitar. The tune was haunting and beautiful, and for a moment, Janice let herself drift into the music. The man lifted his gaze, and their eyes met. Time seemed to freeze. There was something in his look, something that felt both familiar and mysterious. "That song," Janice murmured, barely finding her voice. "It's beautiful." The man gave her a soft smile. "Thank you. I wrote it a long time ago, for someone very special I lost." Janice nodded, feeling an unexpected bond with this stranger. I lost someone too. Someone I never knew, but who I've come to learn was a part of me. The man looked at her with both curiosity and recognition. "Sometimes," he said gently, "the people we lose find their way back to us, even if it's in ways we never expected." A thought flashed through Janice's mind, her heart racing. "Are you Logan Peterson?" The man nodded slowly, his eyes misting over. "And you must be Janice." In that instant, the world stopped. A father and daughter, separated for years by secrets and distance, looked at each other, seeing in the other a piece of themselves they hadn't known they'd been missing. Neither knew this random meeting in the park was only the beginning of a journey that would stretch the bonds of family, test old allegiances, and maybe, just maybe, open the door to forgiveness and love. The park's silence seemed endless as Janice and Logan stood, eyes locked. Decades of unspoken truths and buried longings hung between them like a heavy fog. I don't know what to say," Janice whispered, her voice nearly breaking. Logan gently set his guitar aside, his hands trembling. "Janice, there's so much I want to explain, so much you deserve to know. But I understand if I don't have the right to just reappear in your life like this." Janice shut her eyes briefly, trying to make sense of the storm of emotions. When she looked at him again, her expression held both curiosity and wariness. Why now? Why after all this time? Logan exhaled, his voice soft. "Because I didn't know, Janice. I didn't know you existed until recently. Your mother, Christine. She never told me she was expecting. The news hit Janice like a tsunami." "You never knew? After all this time?" she asked, the disbelief plain on her face. Logan's voice cracked as he replied, "All these years, I carried the guilt of letting Christine go, completely unaware that I'd left behind so much more. When Andrea reached out and told me, it felt like my entire world was shattering and piecing back together at the same time." Janice rose slowly from the swing, moving closer to him. "There's so much I don't understand. So much I don't know about myself," she murmured. Logan met her gaze and nodded, his expression softening. "I know. If you're willing, I'd like to tell you everything. About Christine, our story, the music that brought us together, and the reasons we were forced apart." Just then, Janice's phone buzzed. It was Alexander. "Janice, where are you? Everyone's really worried." Janice looked between Logan and her phone, then answered, "I'm at the park by the office. I'm with Logan Peterson." Silence lingered on the other end before Alexander responded, his voice tense but steady. "Are you okay? Do you want us to come?" She exhaled deeply. "I'm fine, but I think we all need to talk. Can you come here? Bring my parents. And Andrea. It's time we face everything." An hour later, the little park was filled with an unusual gathering. Aaron and Heatherly arrived first, their faces a blend of concern and steadfast love as they saw Janice beside Logan. Alexander and Andrea joined them shortly, tension visible in their stance. Janice stood and faced each of them, people woven into her life in ways she was just beginning to understand. "Thank you for being here," she began, her voice steady, though her hands were trembling. "I know this is hard, but it's time we stop living in the shadows of secrets and partial truths." Aaron stepped forward, his eyes resting on Logan. "Janice, are you sure this is what you want?" Janice nodded. "Dad, Mom, you'll always be my parents. Nothing changes that. But I need to know the full story. Everything about my beginnings." Heatherly moved closer, wrapping Janice in a warm hug. "We're here for you, sweetheart, no matter what we find." Alexander, who had kept quiet until this moment, finally spoke. "Janice, I realize this is a lot to take in, but I want you to know, as Christine's husband, I'm here to support you in any way you need." Logan then stood up, addressing everyone. "First off, I want to thank all of you for being here, especially Aaron and Heatherly for raising Janice with such love, and you, Alexander, for loving Christine and now wanting to be part of Janice's life." Tears in her eyes, Andrea took a deep breath and began to speak. "I think it's time I tell the whole story, from the beginning. You all deserve that." Sitting in that quiet park, shaded by old trees that had stood through so many stories, Andrea began to reveal the secrets and choices that had brought them to this moment. She spoke of Christine and Logan, young and full of dreams, bound by music and love, yet challenged by life's twists. She described Christine's difficult decision to keep her pregnancy from Logan, afraid that it might hold him back from his aspirations. She shared Christine's anguish in the months that followed, her choice to place Janice for adoption, believing it was the best path for everyone involved. Andrea described how she had been the link between Christine and the Garcias, ensuring that Janice was given a home filled with love. Andrea continued, recounting the years that followed, how Christine wrestled with her decision, but eventually found peace and love with Alexander. However, the memory of her daughter never faded. As Andrea spoke, tears fell freely among everyone present. Janice listened, her heart conflicted between the loss of the mother she never knew and the love of the parents who raised her. When Andrea finished, a deep silence lingered over the group. Finally, Janice broke it. "All my life, I felt something was missing," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "Now I understand why. But I also realize that I've had more love in my life than I ever thought possible." She turned to Aaron and Heatherly. "You are my parents, the ones who raised me and loved me without condition. That will never change." Then she looked at Alexander. "You are my connection to Christine, the mother I never knew, but who loved me enough to make the hardest choice." Finally, she turned to Logan. "And you're a part of me. I'm just beginning to discover. I don't know what that fully means yet, but I'm ready to find out." Logan nodded, his eyes filled with emotion. "Thank you, Janice. I truly don't deserve more than what you're offering me." Alexander stepped forward, a hint of apprehension in his expression. "Janice, there's something important I need to tell you, something I've been putting off because I was scared." Everyone turned toward him, the tension hanging heavy in the air. "A few weeks ago, before everything unfolded, I had some routine tests done," Alexander continued, his voice slightly shaky. "The results, they weren't what I had expected." Janice felt her heart pound. "What do you mean, Alexander?" "I was diagnosed with a degenerative disease. It's something I can manage, but it's not curable. The doctors say that with proper treatment I should still have many good years ahead, but..." He trailed off, unable to finish. Without a second thought, Janice hugged him tightly. "Oh, Alexander," she whispered, "I'm so sorry." Aaron and Heather exchanged concerned glances, their faces reflecting the worry they felt. Logan, meanwhile, seemed visibly affected. Andrea, her eyes brimming with tears, softly asked, "Alexander, why didn't you tell us sooner?" Still in Janice's embrace, Alexander replied, "I didn't want my condition to change things. I wanted Janice to know me for who I am, not just what I'm dealing with." Janice pulled back slightly to look him in the eye. "This doesn't change a thing, Alexander. If anything, it makes me want to know you even more, to stand by you." Logan surprised everyone by stepping forward. "Alexander, I know we don't know each other well, and things between us are complex, but if there's anything I can do, anything at all..." The gesture moved Alexander, who looked at him. "Thank you, Logan. That means a lot." Aaron, who had been silent until now, added, "I think we all feel the same way. This situation may be complicated, but we're in this together as a family." Heather nodded. "Maybe an unusual family, but a family just the same." Janice looked around, realizing these people, each in their own way, were all part of her life, past, present, and future. She felt an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude. "We've got a lot to process and a lot to talk about," Janice said, "but for the first time, I feel whole. I know that together, we can handle anything that comes our way." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm colors across the sky, the group came together in a heartfelt embrace, sharing tears, laughter, and unspoken promises. In that moment, they sealed a pact of love, forgiveness, and hope. Their future was still uncertain. The path ahead wouldn't be simple, especially with Alexander's illness, complicated relationships to work through, and years of hidden truths to face. Yet, as they stood under the fading light of the sunset, each of them felt a shared strength, knowing they could tackle whatever life brought their way. Janice's journey, which had begun with secrets and separations, was now opening up to a world of possibilities, filled with love and the enduring promise of family, no matter the obstacles. 5 years had passed since that day in the park, when all the secrets finally emerged and an unconventional family began to take shape. Instead of weakening their new bonds, time had only strengthened them, creating a supportive, loving network beyond anything they'd imagined. On a bright Sunday morning, the lively buzz on Alexander's spacious terrace was filled with laughter and conversation. Now 33, Janice, the marketing director at Reynolds Enterprises, moved gracefully among the guests, her face lit with a radiant smile. "Mom? Dad?" she called as she approached Aaron and Heather, who were happily chatting with Andrea. "Have you seen Alexander? The cake is almost here, and I want him to be ready to blow out the candles." Heather smiled, wrapping her arms around her daughter. "I think I spotted him in the study with Logan. They were tuning their guitars for the musical surprise." Janice nodded, a swirl of emotions shining in her eyes. It still felt like a miracle how, over these 5 years, every piece of her life had somehow come together in ways she'd never have predicted. She walked to the study, pausing just outside the door as she caught bits of conversation between Alexander and Logan. "And then, Christine looked at me with those eyes," Logan was saying, his voice filled with a gentle nostalgia. "Eyes that could light up an entire room. That was the moment I knew I'd fallen in love," he added, his voice tender. Alexander chuckled. "I know exactly what you mean. She had that look, like you were the only person in her world." Janice held her breath in awe at how these two men, who were both committed to Christine, had developed a friendship based on respect and a shared love for her. "You know," Alexander's tone grew serious, "there was a time I worried I wouldn't live to see this day, when I was diagnosed. But here you are," Logan cut in, his voice steady and reassuring, "fighting every day, living each moment. Christine would be so proud, Alexander." "Janice adored you, Alexander." Stepping into the study with eyes filled with emotion, she announced, "And he's right," with a gentle smile. "I love you both," she said, as Alexander rose to give her a warm hug. Though his movements were slower now, the embrace was just as heartfelt as it had been 5 years earlier. He had faced a challenging illness, but thanks to everyone's unwavering support, especially Janice's, he'd managed to maintain a quality of life that even his doctors viewed as near miraculous. "Ready for the big surprise?" Logan asked with a playful wink. Janice chuckled. "Oh, the surprise that everyone knows about except the birthday boy. Absolutely." Together, they walked out to the terrace where the guests were gathered. Catherine, who had gone from Alexander's assistant to a cherished family friend, came forward carrying a cake lit with 50 bright candles. "Happy birthday, Alexander," the crowd called out in harmony. Visibly touched, Alexander looked around, taking in the faces of those he loved. There was Janice, who had become a precious part of his life, Aaron and Heather, who had embraced him as family with a kindness that still humbled him. Logan, once an intimidating figure, now a loyal friend and steady presence. Andrea, whose bravery in bringing the truth to light had shaped this new chapter of his life. And all the friends and colleagues who had stood by him through thick and thin. Before blowing out the candles, Alexander's voice trembled with emotion. "Thank you all for being here. 5 years ago, when I got my diagnosis, I thought it might be the beginning of the end. But because of all of you, it's been the start of the best part of my life." He turned to Janice, grasping her hand. "Janice, you've been my anchor, my inspiration. Being in your life and getting to know you has been the greatest gift I could have asked for." Tears welling up, Janice hugged Alexander tightly. "And you've been my bridge to a part of myself I've always wanted to understand. Thank you for being more than my mother's husband, but truly a second father to me." Logan stepped forward with a guitar in hand. "And now, if you all don't mind, Alexander and I have a little musical surprise for you." The first chords of a familiar tune began to play, and Janice immediately recognized the song, her face lighting up with joy. The song that once echoed through the park when Logan played it, marking the day they met, had now transformed. With Alexander's accompaniment, its tune had shifted from one of sorrow and regret to a vibrant celebration of love, family, and fresh starts. As the melody filled the space, Janice looked around, her heart brimming with thankfulness. She caught sight of her parents, Aaron and Heather, swaying gently together, their love as steadfast as ever. Andrea stood nearby, her eyes shining with joyful tears, finally at ease with choices once made. Additionally, Logan and Alexander were creating something lovely together because of their shared love for Christine. In that moment, Janice felt Christine's presence deeply, no longer a source of pain, but a powerful force of love that had brought everyone together in such a meaningful and unexpected way. When the song concluded, met with applause and cheers, Alexander stepped forward to blow out the candles. Standing by him, Janice leaned in, whispering, "Make a wish." Alexander's smile widened as he took in the scene around him before blowing out the candles. He didn't need a wish. Everything he had ever wanted was right there on that terrace, in that perfect moment. As applause rang out and the festivities continued, Janice found herself reflecting on the incredible journey of the past 5 years. She had discovered her roots, gained an extended family, and uncovered a strength within herself she hadn't realized was there. Alexander's diagnosis, though frightening at first, had in many ways spurred them into truly embracing life. They had tackled each day as an adventure, seeing each challenge as a way to draw closer. Logan had become a beloved fixture in their lives, sharing memories of Christine and filling in the blanks of family history with his music and warmth. Janice learned that she had inherited her father's musical talent, and their guitar sessions had become a cherished tradition between them. Aaron and Heather, rather than feeling displaced, had fully embraced this growing family, offering the steadfast love upon which their new life had flourished. As the party went on, Janice found herself alone with Alexander in a quiet spot on the terrace. "How are you feeling?" she asked, noticing he looked a bit weary. Alexander offered that reassuring smile of his. "I'm good, Janice. More than good." "I'm grateful," Janice said with a nod, fully understanding. "You know, sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if you hadn't noticed my necklace that day in your office." "Life works in mysterious ways," Alexander mused. "I think somehow Christine was guiding us, piecing it all together." "I know," Janice murmured softly. "Sometimes I feel her presence. In Logan's music, in your stories, in the love my parents shared. It's like she never truly left." Alexander hugged her, his throat tight with emotion. "She would be so proud of you, Janice. Of the woman you've become. Of how you've faced everything. Of us," Janice corrected, smiling. "She'd be proud of all of us for turning secrets and pain into something beautiful." Just then, Logan walked over with a warm smile. "Am I interrupting?" "Never," Janice said, pulling him into the hug. For a moment, the three of them held each other close, each one reflecting on Christine and the incredible journey that had brought them here. Heather's voice calling, "Come on," soon brought them back to reality. Time to cut the cake. As they moved toward the group, Janice took a second to glance up at the sky. The sun was shining down on them, as if it were a blessing on this perfect day. "Thanks, Mom," she whispered to the breeze, "for everything." Surrounded by love, with their past healed and a future full of hope, Janice rejoined her family. A family not solely by blood, but by choice, love, forgiveness, and the determination to create beauty from life's unexpected twists. With Alexander holding the cake knife, Janice on one side, Logan on the other, and their friends and family close by, it was clear this story wasn't ending. It was growing, evolving, and blossoming into something new. This was the story of a family, a unique family perhaps, but one bound by the deepest love, the kind that faces challenges, forgives wrongs, and embraces second chances. And as the late afternoon sun cast a warm golden light over them, they all knew in their hearts that the best was yet to come. As the celebration began winding down and guests said their goodbyes, Janice found herself sitting alone on the steps, gazing at the New York skyline. The sunset painted the sky in soft pinks and oranges, a perfect, close to a day of love and joy. She felt someone sit beside her and looked over to see Catherine, Alexander's former assistant, and now a dear friend, settling down next to her. "Quite a day, huh?" Victoria remarked, her smile gentle. Janice nodded, mirroring the smile. "It's been wonderful. 5 years ago, I would have never thought we'd all be here together like this." Victoria lawed softly. "I still remember the day you first stepped into Alexander's office, the look on his face when he spotted your necklace. I could tell something big was on the horizon." Janice's fingers drifted to the small crescent moon pendant around her neck. It's strange how something so small can end up changing everything. They shared a comfortable silence, watching as the final slivers of daylight faded behind the city's tall buildings. "You know," Victoria began thoughtfully, "I've been in corporate long enough to see plenty of families break apart because of secrets and lies. But what you've all created here, it's rare, Janice." Catherine's words filled Janice with a warm sense of gratitude. "Thank you," she replied, her voice soft. "It hasn't always been easy, but it's been worth every bit of effort." "That's for sure," a voice chimed in. Turning, Janice and Victoria saw Alexander approaching, Logan a step behind him. Alexander settled beside Janice, while Logan leaned against the railing. "Every hardship, every tough conversation, every tear," Alexander continued. "It's all been worth it to build this family." Logan nodded. "For so long, I ran from my past, from the grief of losing Christine. I never thought that confronting it would lead to so much happiness." Looking at Alexander and Logan, who had each become like fathers to her, Janice felt a deep sense of love and gratitude swell within her. "I'm thankful for both of you," she said, her voice catching, "and for my parents and Andrea and everyone who's been part of this journey." At that moment, Aaron and Heatherly appeared at the terrace door with Andrea in tow. "There you all are," Heatherly said, with a warm smile. "We were starting to wonder where everyone went." As they joined the group on the terrace, Janice couldn't help but marvel at the scene. A group of people from all different backgrounds, united by fate, choice, and love, now inseparable as family. Andrea broke the comfortable silence. "Christine always said that love could overcome anything. I think she'd be amazed at how true that turned out to be." Alexander smiled, a hint of sadness in his eyes. She'd always been the wisest among them. "To Christine," Logan said, raising an imaginary toast, "for bringing us all together, even when she couldn't be here herself." "To Christine," they all echoed, their voices blending softly in the evening air. As the stars began to shimmer in the dusky sky, a gentle calm settled over Janice. It hadn't been an easy road, and more hurdles surely awaited them. Alexander's health remained a constant worry, and their unique family structure required patience and understanding to navigate. But as she looked around, taking in the faces of those she held dear, her adoptive parents who had showered her with unwavering love, her biological father who'd become a treasured part of her life, Alexander, who had taken on the role of a second father and a connection to the mother she'd never known. She felt a warmth bloom within her. Andrea, who'd had the courage to reveal the truth, and friends like Catherine, who had supported them through every challenge, filled her with a sense of resilience. Janice knew that with all of them by her side, they could face whatever came next. As the night deepened and city lights sparkled below, the family stayed on the terrace, sharing laughter, memories, and quiet moments of reflection. They spoke about Christine, about their shared but separate pasts, and about the new future they were shaping together. In that moment, Janice saw her family like the sprawling city before them, a vibrant, intricate tapestry woven with diverse threads, each adding its own unique color and strength. Leaning her head on Alexander's shoulder, Logan's gentle guitar strumming softly in the background, and her parents and Andrea close by, Janice felt a deep sense of belonging. The necklace that had set everything in motion glinted in the moonlight, reminding her of a mother she'd never met, but whose love had forged this extraordinary connection. Janice touched it softly, silently thanking Christine for the incredible gift she'd given them all, the gift of each other. As the night wore on and the conversation continued, Janice realized this wasn't just a celebration of Alexander's birthday. It was a celebration of their family, of the love that brought them together and would carry them forward. No matter what lay ahead, they'd face it as a family, unconventional, yet absolutely perfect. And as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Janice knew this was just the beginning. There were many more stories to share, many moments yet to come, and so much love yet to be given and received. Janice felt complete being with the people she loved the most, and she had a gut feeling that Christine was looking down on them,